Last Tuesday morning, you probably woke up, checked your phone, maybe scrolled through some news, social media, liked some pictures. Later, you picked up some groceries. For some reason, you completely skipped work. You might have seen an ad for something you were just talking about. Just normal life, right? But while you were living it, invisible hands were at work. As you swiped your loyalty card, information about your purchases was being recorded. As you browsed online, cookies tracked your clicks. That free app you downloaded, it noted your location. And every single one of those digital breadcrumbs, those seemingly innocent actions, wasn't just stored by the company you interacted with. It was aggregated. It was categorized. It was sold. Sold by companies you've never heard of. Companies with names like Axiom, Oracle, Epsilon, or Experian. These are data brokers. And they are quietly building a profile of you that is so detailed, so intimate. It knows more about you and your life than your closest friends. They know your age, your address, and your income. They know your marital status, how many kids you have, and what kind of car you drive. They know your health conditions, your political donations, and even your favorite hobbies. They know if you're struggling financially, if you're looking for a new job. They know you. And they're selling that knowledge for profit every single second of every single day. Today on Privacy Please, we expose the invisible industry built on buying and selling your personal life. We're pulling back the curtain on data brokers. Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Privacy Please. I am your host, Cameron Ivey. And before we dive in, a quick reminder. Listen, we're building a community dedicated to navigating these complex digital issues, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. If you're listening to this on a podcast app or you want to watch the full episode on YouTube, please take a second to follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can also go to our website, theproblemlounge.com, to find all of our links, and you can listen to all the episodes there as well. We're trying to get these conversations out to as many people as possible, and with your help, it's the best way that we could do that. So thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing and supporting us, and let's get into it. We imagined invisible hands collecting your data. What we were describing is the very real multi-billion-dollar business of data brokers. So let's start here first. What exactly is a data broker? Maybe you've heard that term, maybe you're familiar with it, but in simple terms, they are companies that collect vast amounts of information about individuals from countless sources, then aggregate, analyze, and package that data into profiles, which they then sell to other organizations. They don't typically interact directly with you, the consumer. They operate in the shadows, buying and selling your digital self. This isn't about Google knowing your search history or Facebook knowing your likes. While those companies collect their own user data, data brokers are a distinct and far more pervasive layer of the surveillance economy. They are the middleman, the aggregators, the information wholesalers. And where do they get this information? Almost everywhere. It's a staggering list, actually. Let's go through it. Public records, birth certificates, marriage licenses, property records, professional licenses, voter registration files, court documents. This is all publicly accessible data that they collect in the masses. Commercial sources, loyalty cards from grocery stores, purchase history from online retailers, warranty registrations, magazine subscriptions, change of address forms. Every time you buy something, whether online or offline, that data can be vacuumed up. online activity, cookies from websites, location data from apps, social media activity, IP addresses, browsing history. Everything you do online leaves a trace. Other data brokers? Yes, they even buy data from each other, creating an even more comprehensive and granular picture of our lives. They then use sophisticated algorithms to combine all these desperate pieces of information, creating incredibly detailed profiles. And these profiles can include thousands of attributes about a single person. They're not just guessing if you own a pet, they might know the breed, its name, and where you buy its food from. And who are they selling this to? The list is extensive. Let's go through it. Advertisers and marketers. To target you with hyper-specific ads for products and services they believe you're most likely to buy. Financial institutions for credit scoring, fraud detection, and determining loan eligibility. Insurance companies to assess risk when setting premiums for life, health, and auto insurance. Employers for background checks, job applications. Political campaigns to identify potential voters and tailor messaging. Law enforcement, sometimes legally, sometimes through less formal channels to aid in investigations. The sheer scale of this industry is mind-boggling. Some of the largest data brokers hold information on billions of consumers globally, with hundreds of millions in the US alone. We're talking about petabytes of information, all pointing back to you. The chilling part is that this entire ecosystem operates largely in the shadows, often with minimal regulation. You never agreed to be a part of this market, and yet your personal information is its most valuable commodity. So, if they know so much about us, who are these companies and why haven't we heard about any of them? And what is the real world impact of this invisible trade? That's coming up next. Before the break, we outlined what data brokers are and the sheer volume of information they collect. Now, let's talk about the impact of this invisible trade. What happens when your meticulously compiled digital profile is put to use? The consequences range from the merely annoying to genuinely alarming. On the annoying end, you have hyper-targeted advertising. This is what most people notice. You search for something once and suddenly ads for it are everywhere. This is often thanks to data brokers refining your profile so advertisers know exactly how to reach you. It feels intrusive because it is, and it seems almost instant. But it gets much more concerning. Data brokers don't just sell data to marketers, they sell it to anyone who pays. You want the info? Give me the money. This includes scammers, fraudsters, and even potentially malicious actors who use these detailed profiles for social engineering. Think about it. A scammer who knows your age, your financial situation, what charities you donate to, and if you've recently bought a new car, has a massive advantage in crafting a believable phishing attempt. Even more alarming is the potential for discrimination and exploitation. Imagine a data broker compiles a vulnerability score for you. This score might be based on factors like your income, your credit history, your neighborhood, or even the types of websites you visit. That score then can be sold to companies that might use it to deny you a loan, charge you a higher insurance premium, or target you with predatory offers, all without you even knowing why. There have been documented cases of data brokers creating lists like seniors with Alzheimer's or individuals with specific health conditions. Lists that could be invaluable to unscrupulous companies looking to prey on the vulnerable. This isn't just theory, it's a practice that's drawn heavy criticism and some legal challenges. And let's not forget the political implications here. Data brokers play a massive role in modern political campaigns, building profiles that can predict your voting behavior, identify your deepest anxieties, and target you with highly personalized often emotionally manipulative political ads. This can contribute to polarization and undermine democratic processes, all fueled by your unseen data. So, if these companies are so pervasive and their impact is so significant, why do they operate with such little oversight? Why haven't we stopped them? And that brings us to the thorny issue of regulation, or the lack thereof. Okay, so we've seen the reach and impact of data brokers. But the biggest question remains, how are they allowed to do this? The simple answer is that the United States currently has no single comprehensive federal law specifically regulating data brokers. Our legal framework is a patchwork mostly based on industry-specific laws. For example, if a data broker is handling financial information, they might fall under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. If they're dealing with health information, HIPAA might be applied. But for the vast majority of personal data they collect, your shopping habits, your location data, your interests, your predicted behaviors, there's very little federal oversight. And that's the biggest problem. This means that companies can collect, aggregate, and sell your data without your explicit consent, and often without even your knowledge. Unlike Europe's GDPR or California's CCPA, which give consumers broad rights over their data, most Americans have minimal legal recourse to see what data brokers hold on them, correct it, or demand deletion. There's a fundamental disconnect here. Most people believe that their personal information should be private by default. Data brokers operate on the principle that if data isn't explicitly protected by a specific law, it's fair game. The industry itself argues that they provide a valuable service for a functioning economy. They help businesses find customers and prevent fraud, and even help law enforcement track down criminals. They say they are just using publicly available information or data collected with your consent, often buried deep in the terms and conditions nobody reads. And I can promise you, 99% of the people do not read that, or most of them, unless you work in law, most of the time. But critics, including consumer advocacy groups and privacy experts, they argue that this argument is a fig leaf. They point to the sheer volume and intimacy of the data, the lack of transparency, and the potential for misuse. They contend that this unregulated market creates a massive vulnerability for every single individual. The tide, however, may be slowly turning. States like California, Colorado, Utah, and Virginia have passed their own comprehensive privacy laws, I think Minnesota as well, including the right to know what's collected and to request deletion. There's also a growing bipartisan discussion in Washington, D.C. about the need for a national privacy law. But for now, the data broker industry largely remains an invisible empire built on the invisible trade of your personal life. So, what can you do about it? Can you really take back control of your digital self? The data broker industry can feel like an insurmountable force, a vast, invisible network collecting and profiting from every single aspect of your life. But you're not entirely powerless here. While there is no magic bullet, there are concrete steps you can take to reclaim some of your privacy. Let's talk about those real quick. First, the most direct approach is to make do not sell my personal information requests. If you live in a state with a comprehensive privacy law like California's CCPA, for example, you have the legal right to tell companies, including data brokers, not to sell your data. Many data brokers now have specific pages on their websites for these requests, though finding them can be like a digital scavenger hunt, of course. Look for privacy requests or data subject access requests. or do not sell my info links. It's time consuming, but it does work. Second, consider using data removal services. These are paid services that specialize in finding your information on data broker sites and submitting removal requests on your behalf. They act as your proxy, saving you hours of effort, but be sure to research reputable services as quality can vary. Third, practice good digital hygiene. And we've talked about this way in the past on Privacy Please. I mean, I think that was part of our first episode 5-6 years ago. So review app permissions. Be judicious about which apps you download and what permissions you grant them, especially location and contacts. Limit social media sharing. Be mindful of the personal information you share publicly. What you post can become fodder for data brokers. Use strong privacy settings. Regularly review the privacy settings on your social media accounts, web browsers, and email services. Another one is opt out of marketing. Wherever possible, opt out of direct mail, telemarketing, and email marketing lists. This can sometimes disrupt the flow of your data. And finally, embrace the power of skepticism. Be skeptical, people. Question every free service, every app, every loyalty program. Ask yourself, if I'm not paying for this product, am I the product? Understanding that your data is valuable is the first step to protecting it. The fight against data brokers is an ongoing battle for our digital lives. It requires vigilance, a bit of effort, and a constant awareness of the invisible trade happening all around us. By taking these steps, you can start to draw a clearer line around your personal data and reclaim your privacy. And with that, we have come to the end of our episode. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. The support for coming on the show is always, I'm so grateful for it. And I hope that you're enjoying these types of episodes, and we'll just keep doing them. Different things all around. If you haven't seen the new website, check it out, theproblemlounge.com. We have new shows coming out soon, so just be on the lookout. And thank you so much for supporting Privacy Please and the Problem Lounge Network. We'll see you guys very soon. Cameron Ivy, over and out.